All right, we carry on with our programming as Dumo Lulu-Briggs is the candidate of Accord Party for this Saturday's governorship election in River State. He now joins us to have a discussion about his manifesto, preparations for the election, and chances in the governorship race. Good day and a very warm welcome to Newsday today. And I'll just get straight into it. Now, one of the things you've highlighted while you've been campaigning is that you want to put an end to Godfatherism. Now, I'd love to know what your thoughts are on the influence that the Godfatherism will play in this election coming up on Saturday, of course, with the role of Governor Wike being known to be extremely strong. What are your chances, and will Godfatherism triumph yet again? Well,
we're bound to make history on Saturday. That will be the defeat of Godfatherism, in River State. Well, the candidate of the party or the PDP isn't even bothering to campaign. Sometimes they think they've won elections already. But when I take my campaigns out on the streets and how it resonates with, the average Rivers man, woman, even little children who have no voting rights, I'm sure that their parents will know how it will be so exciting for their children to have me as governor. So Governor Wike has his work cut out for him, on Saturday. We're out to defeat Godfatherism in River State. I've always maintained I have no Godfather, except God the Father himself. And so we have a clear message for Rivers people. We know that Rivers people are in all kinds of difficulties, and we're making humongous promises to Rivers people. The basic thing that we promise is that we are going to move our GDP, from a paltry $20 billion annually that it is today to well over $350 billion. Now that's quite huge, and to make sure that happens in our campaigns, we're not even bothering to employ foul language because we do not want to create irreconcilable differences. We want everybody to come on board. We intend to use the best of us to work for the rest of us. So every Rivers person will be welcome. And they know by my antecedent that when I say these things that I mean them, I'm very open, I know that we need to have an all-inclusive, government and take River State out of where she is today. We need to move people from poverty to prosperity and from prosperity to yet greater prosperity. There's well over 42% of Rivers people who are not employed, an additional 18% of Rivers people who are underemployed. That means that, young graduates, who are doctors, lawyers, engineers who are working as security guards, as taxi drivers and all that. So now that's, a huge problem for River State. So we thought of very massive things that we're going to do, huge industries. The tech economy is what we're going to look at, oil and gas, which is our biggest, perhaps, our only mainstay, is not even the biggest revenue earner for River State. We've been told that the big revenue earners for River State, right, will always be oil and will always be agriculture and tourism. So we intend, to focus a lot of attention on that. And then in addition to that, of course, is the tech economy. We are going to be very deliberate in introducing a youth bias, in our political geography. So we have designated an entire local government area, which we are going to call, our tech city, and grow that up, to something like a Silicon Valley. We know what that means. So there's going to be a lot of investment, in that, because we are hopeful that we're going to have some very big inventions, that will come out of, the skills of our young people. So number one thing that we're going to do in that direction is to ensure, that we domesticate the Startup Act. We're going to domesticate that very quickly. And then to do that, we also know that we will need to see what is the broadband penetration that we have in River State, right? What's the Google mapping coverage that we have in River State? I mean, if we're able to increase the broadband penetration, then of course it's the added, advantage. And young, tech innovators, all kinds of crazy ideas that our young people have, they will think that River State, right, is a destination, to come and, show their talent. So there's going to be funding for them, there's going to be mentorship. We need to ensure that the next big inventions, if they are not coming out of River State, that Rivers people are the most prepared to take advantage of it. We know what these inventions can do. As we know, this entire exuberance of the American economy, I've always maintained, is put down to three inventions: the computer, the microchip, and the internet. And how did that come about, right? It's a triumvirate alliance of big businesses, the academia, and government. And that's the kind of thing that we intend to have. So there's going to be funding, into the tech sector, because we want the biggest things to come out of Rivers State. So we know what, these inventions do. Once they happen, right, they affect the status quo. We see what the internet has done to retail. Today you stay in your home and then you can do all your banking transactions. You stay right in the comfort of your home in Port Harcourt, and you bought all your goods that you want to buy in California. That's what happens. We also have seen what social media has done to newspapers. So these inventions, when they happen, right, they have very, very telling effect. So we understand that there's a huge tech economy, and our people must take advantage of that. Africa's share of the digital economy, as from what we hear, is about $735 billion, and Nigeria is positioned to lead, right, that tech economy. And we want to ensure that if Nigeria leads that, maybe Nigeria will probably have about 60% share or 50% share or even 40% share of that. And if Nigeria gets 40% share of that economy, 20% of that, or 30 or 40, must come, must be domiciled in Rivers State. That's the target for us, in the kinds of things, that we want to do, the sort of industries that we want to do. We look at our airport, that we have, and we say, well, what can we do? We need to have very quick collaborations with the federal government to make sure that your airport is not just, a tanker cargo port, but also a container cargo port. And to decongest that port, we are also thinking that we could build a bonded terminal, very close, to the port, in a place where we call Anderekri. Anderekri is, Krika local government, area. Now, when we do that, as the big vessels come, to the port with the huge cargoes, the small vessels will take them to Anderekri, where we have very massive warehouses, like you have, in Tinker and Right, and also, in Krikri. So we're going to have a bonded terminal, and at that bonded, terminal and the warehouses, as the goods arrive, not already, being cleared by customs. Working also again in collaboration with the federal government, we'll have a customs and excise, the depots and all that set up there, and that will also provide lots of opportunities for forwarding, for clearing, for all kinds of things. We are also thinking that we can do a 200 kilometers bi-directional expressway, right, and all the way to our border with Onitsha. Now the reason why we want to do that is because we want to reduce travel time from anywhere in the east, to Port Harcourt by well over 3 hours. So we're going to have that, road start again from Anderekri, and take it to Isaka. From Isaka, we'll take it to Bakana. From Bakana, of course, we'll take it, to Tombia. From Tombia, we'll take it, to Obakri. Obakri, we'll get across to the east-west road. And then, we'll go to Onelga. At Undone, which is our border, right, with the east, it's just on 49 kilometers, to Onitsha. Now, once we've done that, anywhere you are in the east, you can get into Port Harcourt in 2 hours. At that point, Easterners begin to ask themselves, would we need to take our goods, through Lagos? Or we should just, be in Port Harcourt, we are in 2 hours, or less than 2 hours, we're there. So these are the kinds of massive things, that we're looking at, to do. And because we have, as I've also mentioned, that the potentials for agriculture is huge. In a place where we call Oyorokoto in Andoni, we intend to have a massive, fishing terminal, where, trawlers and all that will come, and fish all kinds of, we will have, even as we suffer devastation in our waters, we still have well over 270 different species of fish. So that's, that's quite humongous. You have all kinds of, mollusks, you have crustaceans, you have all sorts, whether it's squids, it's oysters, it's octopi, it's snails, crabs, everything you have, in our waters. And then because we have huge potential also, for agriculture, we are thinking that in places like Okada,
so much, Mr.
we could
Lulu-Briggs.
have plantation scale.
That's indeed a robust manifesto that you have. Thank you so much. But I'm just wondering if you have any concerns based on what's played out on February 25th regarding INEC's ability to deliver, using that as a premise ahead of this Saturday. Do you have any concerns at all?
Oh yes, of course. That was very concerning. Getting into the February 25th elections, there were huge expectations, and you can see that. That's hopes raised, and hopes dashed. It's so, very unfortunate. So everybody is concerned. We know that INEC is still in court now to see whether, of course, we can reconfigure the beavers for the coming elections and all that. So there are things to concern Nigerians. But I think that INEC would have learned from the lessons. It's so unfortunate that that people will not play by the rules. I tell you, if we reconcile reason with truth, then the arguments that shall follow, must be slim and just. That's where we are. INEC must play by the rules. You came up with certain guidelines, and there were huge expectations. There was a lot of talk about, how things will play out. How, of course, at the units, elections will be uploaded, to the beavers machine, and then from the beavers machine, uploaded onto, the INEC server. And there was a lot of anxiety. As for me, at 3 p.m., I'd already gone to my home, hoping that I would, see the rest of the results, from the comfort of my home, looking at from my own situation room, I would see everything that was going to go on. And that, didn't happen. So it's very concerning. And for more than a week after that elections, I kept, meeting young persons who were asking me all kinds of questions. What happened to our votes? You probably saw that our votes would count. As a matter of fact, they were speaking to me as well about INEC, because I know the amount of time that I spent trying to get young people, to get some confidence in our electoral system. But I showed them that the votes will count. INEC have come with all kinds of devices to make sure, that even vote buying will not, happen. That you can't even take telephones, to the polling booths, so you can't take pictures of how you voted to show to anybody. Unfortunately, right as the elections were going on, Mr. President has shown to the rest of the world, how he voted. So, there were quite, a lot of expectations that were not met. So going forward to these coming elections on March 11th, we are very hopeful that INEC would have learned their lessons and would no longer take Nigerians, for granted. You can't keep telling us something, and then, you give us a different outcome. So yes, we have those concerns, but we're human beings. We are very positive, we're very forward-looking, and then we have elections, to face. So that's the reality on ground, that there will be elections on March 11th, and we're prepared, to go to the polls. We've asked our persons to come out, their votes will count. And this time, we shall follow them bumper to bumper. In the past, because of how INEC had done a few elections at a few places where, we all left, quite satisfied, we felt that the same things were going to happen. Otherwise, the tradition had always been, to follow, the materials from one point to the other point, all the political parties. Having 18 political parties contest an election, you wonder how bumper to bumper will look in that kind of scenario. It's going to be quite messy. So we are hopeful that INEC will do the needful this time around.
We certainly are all hopeful of that. Yeah, that's right. Now, we just have limited time, so we want to get through as much as possible. Now, one thing that seems to continue to rear its ugly flag every election, but this time around, the intensity is much more pronounced, is the politics of ethnicity. Tell me how much of a role you feel politics of ethnicity will play a role in Rivers State. We've spoken to various candidates, and it seems the conflict or the competition between ethnicities is ripe. Do you think this will play in your favor on Saturday?
Well, I wish it wouldn't play a role because we ought to be one big Rivers family. There are certain sentiments that hold the fabric of our state. And sometimes it would be nice, to respect those, those sentiments. Even the United States of America, it took them well over 150 years of their democracy, for you to have a president come from the South and the vice president also come from the South. It was until 1992, in the election of Bill Clinton, that we had Bill Clinton, who is the president from the South, and Al Gore, who was the vice president, also from the South. So yes, these things, are factors that will play. But we all know at the end of the day, they shouldn't be taken, beyond, the consciousness that we should just have, that we must be our brother's keepers. We must be concerned. We must ensure that all of us have a sense, of a common feature. And that sense must be quite compelling. So, to that extent, yes, some people may say, oh, well, it's the turn of A or the turn of B. But I have said that we're going to use the best of us to work for the rest of us. And I'm presenting myself, as the best, for the assignment. So
on Saturday, will it matter? On Saturday, will it matter when people are going to the polling booth? Will it matter if the candidate is Ejo or Kalabari? Do you think that'll play to voters' sentiments and choices?
No, well, I think that most of the key candidates, are Ejo, right? So Unfortunately, this time around, we're not looking at all of those things. We're just looking at competence. A lot of people who are running these elections, are job persons who are running. So we're looking clearly at competence, and we understand that religion or ethnicity may inspire. It may even contain the ultimate, truth. But whether, by the simple laws of biology and physics or in consequences, of God, neither ethnicity nor religion has been an effective rule for running a successful state. So we understand that, and we hope that that would not be a major reason to decide who wins the next elections. But I am coming, to this election with a lot, of experience. I'm coming to this election with a lot, of history behind me. I'm coming to these elections, with a lot of things that young people, old people, traders, workers, everyone, can identify with. My record, speak for me, and I think that I stand in a very pole position to win the elections. Very, unforeseen circumstances, giving free and fair elections. By the special grace of God, I shall emerge the winner of the next elections in Rivers State. Well,
let's see how that plays out. Thank you so much, Rivers State Accord Party governorship candidate, Mr. Dumo Lulu-Briggs. Thank you for joining us. We certainly wish you well on March 11th.